All right. Hello. Welcome to part 3 of the Prep for the Reseller Intensive program, where we're going over the 12-week year. And it is led by Jason, the Santee Swapper. Jason, say hello.
Hey, all right. Glad everybody's coming back for more.
Yeah. If you missed parts, if you're starting with part 3, this is the first one you've seen, go ahead. They will be linked up in the show notes, and you can go back and you can rewatch parts 1 and 2 if you think they will be helpful. I'm sure they will be. First off, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, American Bubble Boy. They are sponsoring this program, and go check them out. They run an incredible business. They will save you time, money. You don't have to shop around. It is the best deal. Next day delivery in most cases of all your bubble wrap, shrink wrap, all the good things. And I just want to say, thank you to them so much. This is how we can do programs like this. And the more you support them, the better off, the more we will be able to bring you in the future. Jason is volunteering his time here to bring you the 12-week year because our group has had so much success with this, and he wants to share it and feels passionately about sharing it with the reseller community. So, all right, let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah, so I would say that, as Libby mentioned, this is our third session of talking about the 12-week year, but just to kind of go back and catch us up a little bit. In the first session, we really talked about why. Why would you do a 12-week year? Why throw out the annualized plan that all of us are used to, where you have these lofty goals that are set, to expire on December 31st in most cases. We kind of went through all that. And then we've been getting into lately, the second session, about how are we going to pull this off. And one of those things we spent a good bit of time talking about was having a personal vision. And so you're going to have a personal vision that you're going to create some goals that will fit into that vision, and then we're going to track those with daily and weekly. You're going to create tactics that are going to help you meet those goals, and then all of this is going to involve a sense of urgency. We also spent some time last week talking about this concept of greatness in the moment. And you can definitely go back and watch that. We had a long discussion about that. But those are just kind of some key points to summarize where we've been. And today we're going to kind of get into the final part, which really is going to be kind of the nuts and bolts. Maybe this is Libby and my favorite part.
For sure.
So, yeah, this is like we've said before, even in the very beginning, that the 12-week year is an execution system. And to me, these little pieces on the bullets here represent, what does that actually mean? Like, what is the execution system? So we're going to start off with a written plan. You're going to have a weekly scorecard. You're going to have weekly accountability meetings. We call those WAMs. You're going to use time blocking. These are all things we're going to talk about today. So all this sounds a little new and a little out there. We're going to spend a lot of time in this session talking about these. Keystone actions, Libby and I really have learned to love that. And then finally, the 13th week.
Yes. All right. The power is like, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? Like, this is where it all happens. It's all in the action. So this is really exciting.
All right. So we talked, I think, in week one about lead and lag indicators. So we're going to kind of circle back to that now, because one thing that's really important with the 12-week year, once you've created the vision, and then from the vision you've created some goals that are going to help you get there, and then there are tactics, then you have to measure. We talked about the weekly scorecard. You have to measure. Uh, the measurement drives the execution process. So you need to shift your thinking to think more about actions than results. You have a greater control over your actions than you do your outcomes. And Libby and I can give you some examples of lead and lag indicators, in case that's kind of a new concept, because I know it was a little bit for us. But it's real simple. The lead indicator is simply the actions that you're going to commit to do and how you're tracking those. And then your lag indicators is the measurement on the back end of how successful you were in meeting your goal. Do I have that right, Libby?
Absolutely. And this is where most people get hung up. If you're getting hung up on this and you don't understand it, when we do our program, we will walk you through it. But just to give very simple examples of this, let's say this year you want to make $10,000. That would be your lag indicator. All of the things you're doing to boost your sales or to get to that sales number are the lead indicators. And that's what you'll score yourself on weekly, is that lead indicator. Because if you think about it, let's say you're doing the things, I'm listing $2,000 of inventory, and these are totally made up numbers. If I'm listing $2,000 worth of inventory every week, if I am time blocking every day, if I am cross posting every day, those are your lead indicators. Those are the things you'll be scoring yourself on every week. Now, that lag indicator, this is the way I remember it, is the lag indicator is going to lag. Let's say you do all of those things week 1, and it's going to lag, right? Week 2, week 3, you might still see a lag. Maybe you're not getting to that $10,000 as quickly as you can, but that is going to pick up the more you do your lead indicators. So there's always going to be a lag, not always, but most of the time there's going to be a lag in the lag indicator. And that's not really where we want to put our focus. We want to put our focus on those weekly actions. So hopefully that's a good example.
Yeah, I heard, once you kind of understand these concepts, you'll start to hear examples of this, especially if you listen to podcasts and maybe a little too much YouTube, as some of us do. Guilty. Um, and I heard one yesterday. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about some advice that was given that you should, for 30 days straight, I think it was posting on LinkedIn or Instagram or one of the social media sites. And it said, if you do it for 30 days, you're going to grow your followers, right? And this person relayed that they did it for 30 days. And after 30 days, it was kind of like, wah, wah. They didn't see the lag results, but they kept doing it. And so day 31, day 32, day 33, and eventually by doing that, the lag indicator caught up. It took longer than they were sort of promised, but it
Mhm.
caught up. And eventually, I think in this case, the person got like 200,000 followers or some crazy number. So that's kind of the concept. Lead is like you're going to do the things, the post, one day a week or 30 days, whatever it is. And then lag is that thing that's dragging behind the change that you hope to see. So,
Yeah.
um, and then the other one here, this is really important. Your measurement should be devoid of discounting effort. It's kind of cold and unsympathetic. So, we don't grade on a curve in the 12-week year. That's not going to give you the feedback that you need. So we need to be very exact, specific numbers, and you have to be very honest with yourself when you grade yourself. Because if you're grading yourself when you're a curve and giving yourself kind of credit for trying, then you're not really going to get that feedback that's going to help
Mhm.
you either tweak things, change things, or get motivated to do better.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent point.
The authors also bring up some common pitfalls. So, Libby, we can run through these and a couple of success tips as well, things that you and I have experienced along with the people that have been going through the 12-week year with us in consignment chats. So, here's one. You think measurement is complicated or unimportant?
Uh,
And I already confessed in an earlier session that in one of the 12-week years, I had a very complicated tracking system, and I just simply couldn't even keep track of whether I had done the 14 tactics that I had put into my plan. That didn't work so well. Um, and then this one, I'm going to get Libby to talk about this for a second. You abandon the system when you don't score well. And I'm giving you an
hmm.
example of this. We have a friend who's in our group who's been on vacation, right? And so if you put in there that you're going to do all these things, but then you go on a cruise or you go, you're gone for a week or 2 weeks. When you come back, you can sort of feel like, yeah, I give up. I'll see you guys, next quarter. Um,
Yeah.
talk us out of that, Libby.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where the power is in not giving up. And we talk about this in a lot of our consignment chats episodes. It's like, that's where most people fall off, is you just kind of like, you know what, it's too late. I can't start over. I can't get back on track. And I think that, coming and showing up and picking back up, even though your scores aren't great. I had this in the beginning of this year because I was on, I took several trips, and it would have been easy to be like, oh well, the whole year is blown, right? Like this is it. Why don't I just start again sometime else? But you if you abandon it, you can't win, right? Like, I think one of the things that for me is most important, like proving to yourself that you can overcome that hurdle, and you can, set that example, and you can look back on that. Now I look back on that as like a strength, right? Not a failure. Is like, all right, well, that happened, life happens, and I kept going. And it just, it's okay that there's some 0% in there. That's fine. Look at how strong I was and I got back up. Yeah. So you could use that as an anchor.
I would point to this success tip we have here on the slide. Don't be afraid to confront what your numbers are telling you. So, the whole point of keeping score is so you know how you're doing. And so if you have a bad week, that's okay. You can kind of recover from that. And also if you're, for example, if you're doing the tactics, but you're not seeing any results on the other end, with your lag indicators, then maybe you need to tweak the tactics a little bit. Maybe in your plan when you came up with this, it wasn't quite aligned, where there's not perfect connection between the what you're doing and then what you want the results to be. So the feedback is really important because in this 12-week year, it's a short enough time span where it gives you a sense of urgency, where every day counts, every week counts.
Mhm.
That's why keeping score, I think, is so important.
Yeah, and we had such good examples of this as we've gone through this program, where somebody has said, "I'm going to keep that on there because it's feedback for the next year. Like, I can't hit this tactic. Like, I'm trying as hard as I can, but you know what? I'm going to keep it on there because I can see the percentages I got, and I can see how I can realistically, change it for the coming year." So some people did that. Some people, changed their tactics a little bit, but I kind of like the example of just, moving forward for the 12 weeks, seeing where you are at the end and seeing what's reasonable and what's not. Like that feedback. How else can you get that feedback? Like, I just think that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to cheat and talk about something
Yeah.
that's going to happen. You can stay on this side, but
Okay.
when we get to the end, we are going to talk about the 13th week, which is kind of your opportunity to kind of reflect. And what I have seen myself during this whole 2025 that we've been doing this 12-week year every quarter is that I'm always thinking during the 12 weeks about what am I going to do next time. And you're
Mhm.
exactly right, Libby, that you kind of get feedback, you're kind of trying some things out. um, literally, I think we're in week 7 of our current
Mhm.
one, and I'm already seeing that some of the things I had put on my 12-week year plan, I'm not even going to try to attempt them because they were too lofty, and it's not. I'm being successful here, so I'm not going to try. But those might be things that carry over to the next one. So just it's really important. It's really important to keep score and keep track.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to describe the CCHAT's version of the weekly accountability meeting, and certainly the authors in the book, they have their own little versions of it. But essentially, because you're holding yourself accountable, it really is helpful each week to check in with other people who are on this journey with you. And we're going to kind of describe exactly what happens in the CCHAT's version of this, which would be we literally going to meet, like, if I'm looking at my clock here, Libby, in 45 minutes, we have an appointment for our weekly WAM meeting. And we're going to sit down and review everyone's score. And so, how that's going to happen is Libby has created this fantastic spreadsheet where everyone has access to it in Google. They can plug in their numbers. And when you're called upon, then you just give us the results, maybe give us a little bit of if things were successful and how that went, or if there was a struggle, how that went. And for us, this whole meeting lasts about 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the longest.
Mhm.
And then, as Libby likes to say, we can take that to mastermind. So tell us a little bit more about the feedback loop and taking things to mastermind, because that's something you've kind of pioneered.
Yeah, so pretty much like if I said I was struggling last week getting my dollar value of listings up, because that's one of my tactics. I'll say, all right, this is where I really struggled this week, guys. I'm finding it challenging. Let's take that over into mastermind. And then we just have like an informal discussion and everybody offers their, advice, opinions. I have to say that last week, I got some of the best advice I've ever gotten because of one of the things I was struggling with. And I can't wait to talk about it today in masterminds. Um,
Can
yeah,
I, can
so
I just
that's
point
pretty
out
much what we do.
that
Yeah,
literally you are leading the group and you got valuable feedback, right?
always. Yeah,
That's
always.
great. I mean, that's a great example of that.
Yeah, it's an incredible group. And everybody does the same thing. And sometimes it's celebrating a win and saying, you know what, this really worked for me. and other people can take away from that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the scorecard is basically in our WAM meeting is our, well, I'm sure everyone has their own in their notebook or something, but we have a spreadsheet that we share. This is kind of important is that, the authors of the book say that 85% is really a pretty good score. Like it's almost not expected that you would get 100 percent every week. Although
Hmm.
we've had a few people who have hit those numbers, we have a lot of people whose numbers kind of go up and down, and so 85% is really a good number. And then the other thing here we talked about is that you explained it's a feedback loop, and we celebrate when someone has a really great week. We celebrate in the WAM, and then if they get stuck, like you were mentioning in your example, then we can kind of talk them through that a little bit more.
Yeah. And yeah, I want to mention that we do this via Zoom with our group. A lot of times we have one person that participates, and she fills it in. She's not able to, attend the week, and that's totally fine. Like we go over her scores, and we'll talk about, we talk about it with her a lot of times on Sunday nights when we do our reseller reset. And she participates that way, and it's been very successful for her as well. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
and
not
that's actually the
necessary that you
WAM.
need to be there physically on the Zoom. Like, there are ways to participate.
Right, right. And I was going to say the WAM meetings in C chats are not recorded, so people are sharing their weight and their sales numbers and all kinds of sort of sensitive numbers for you. And so that's how we have run our WAM. I know the
Mhm,
authors of the book have their own little online community where they basically run WAM groups with strangers, I think. And
mhm.
so actually, I didn't tell you this one, Libby, but right here in Charlotte, where I live, a lady who does little pop-up classes around town. She is doing the 12-week year, and she, sort of had that open for enrollment where people could join and, be a
Oh,
part of her WAM
wow.
group and everything. So, but I was already taken, so I didn't have to. So,
Oh,
so,
that's really neat. You could do
yeah.
2.
Oh, yeah, two sets of plans. I don't know about that. So Libby and I love talking about time blocks because this is something we mentioned early in an earlier version of this thing that we both had done this, especially Libby had done this. And Libby, getting ready for today, I found something I wanted to share. Do you remember my little blue cards?
Yes, yes.
All right, so let me just kind of tell you where we are here. So, what keeps most people from being successful is how you allocate the amount of time that you have. Thinking in one of our groups, or just heard on a podcast recently, even billionaires can't buy time. It's the one thing you can't buy. So, the thing that you have to really be precious and jealous of guarding is your time. And so, time blocking is something that the authors in the book really push that you can try to use to build into the system. Another thing that's a real problem for all of us is distractions that can eat away at your time. I think a statistic they gave in the book, Libby, was something like 20 to 30% of the average, worker in America, their day is eaten up with distractions.
Mhm.
Email notifications, other things that kind of throw them off their task. And so, what we try to do in the 12-week year is we try to use time blocking to schedule blocks of time for important tasks. And what I was doing here, and I went a little crazy. You hear this and you're like, you go down these rabbit holes. I literally created these cards, and my idea was that I would have a card that would kind of tell me the basics of each one of these blocks. And so if I was listing stuff, if I was doing social media, if I was doing marketing, or if I was doing some stuff on Facebook sales, like I had like little bullets there. And honestly, I need to kind of revisit these cards. I've kind of gotten away from using the cards because I've just built it into a daily planner that I'm using in my Remarkable. But looking back at this, I'm so a little inspired that I had some good ideas. This was at the beginning of 2025 when we first got started.
And you know what? I have to say that my days, like, I would work a lot of times until like 8:30, 9 at night, which is well beyond, and start very early in the morning, and didn't use time blocking. When I started taking this seriously and taking control of my day, I'm done by 5 o'clock. Like, it's crazy. I'm doing the same amount of work, maybe a little more work, more efficiently, and I'm done earlier, right? Like I'm not just like staying up late and driving just driving myself crazy and just exhausted. And I'm getting the same, if not more, work done by reducing those distractions and being very intentional with my time and my time blocking. Like if that doesn't make you want to time block, I don't know what will, right? Because who wants to be working that late, you know?
Yeah, in the sense of efficiency and productivity, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, the authors in the book talk about this idea of strategic blocks. In my mind, this is kind of what I was trying to do with strategic blocks, was saying these are the blocks of time where I'm going to get my work done. But the authors also use it to describe a period of time. They think about 2 or 3 hours, usually on a Monday or a Sunday, where you're going to kind of get your whole week set up and create all the time blocks for the week. This is in C chats. We have a reseller reset on Sunday nights, that this often happens for a lot of us. Um, then let me talk about buffer blocks. That's another one that's really important.
Oh, you're gonna have to do that one for me.
Buffer blocks, I even have a card for it. This is basically when you're going to allow all the distractions in. You think about, like, you have a dam here and you're holding back. You got your notifications turned off, you got your door closed, you got your ringer off, everything like that.
Mhm.
But, during your day, it's a great idea to build in a period of time where you're going to handle all of that low value stuff that gets bombarded at you. So, literally on mine, that's when I can check my email. That's when I can do a few other things like that, eat lunch, small
Mhm.
things like that. So that's kind of my buffer blocks. And then in C chats, we have some people that have created some really great breakout blocks.
The breakout blocks, they are the ones that where you spend working hours not doing working things, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
This is something I need to get better. I need to get a little bit better at. So, what I do right now is once I think they recommend doing this once a week. It's a 3-hour block of time during your workday where you don't work, right? Like you're doing something personal. And so I got up to like once a month I was able to do this on a Friday. I would take 3 hours and I would, I don't know, go do something fun, go shopping or go get a pedicure or something great like that. Um I need to get better at that one. We've seen people do it with success, but the key is it should be during your working hours. And it should be a lot easier because I am able to get a lot more work done during the week by time blocking, but I'm still struggling with the guilt a little bit. So this is going to be one of the things I will be adding. But what is your experience with the breakout blocks, Jason?
Yeah, I think for me, it's trying to, and I think we have great examples in our C chats group of people who do artistry and other kind of
Mm.
crafting type things, that they schedule. Or maybe I'm not sure that Molly would consider editing videos as being a breakout block. Maybe she enjoys it. I'm not sure she enjoys it that much, but we have people who sort of, do create sort of an escape where they can turn things off and
Hmm.
do something different. Maybe even is something as simple as going for a walk and getting outside,
Yeah.
away from your computer. If you have one of these little Apple watches, it's always telling you it's time to stand, right? It's like ding ding, you need to stand, and it's kind of the same idea that you need to have a little bit of a mental break, to
Hmm.
build in there. So um, I'll just sort of end this with this: to get different results, you have to do different things. This whole idea of time blocking may be intimidating for a lot of people who have not tried it, or maybe you have tried lots of different versions of this with little notebooks and little planners that you buy every December, and you're sort of like, oh God, I've tried this before, this doesn't work. But that's why I think having a group that will help you, and some of the coaching that you guys do, especially Libby, can kind of help people do something different, because that's what it's going to take to really change, your mindset, and to have a whole new execution system for getting stuff done.
Yeah. And change is hard. Can we just talk about that? We talked last week about the emotional cycle of change. Change is hard. Good changes are hard. Bad changes are hard. Every change is hard. But this program kind of walks you through it, and it makes it a little bit easier. But change is hard.
Yeah. And we can go through this pretty quickly because this is a little bit of what we just talked about. But
Mhm.
again, one helpful thing the authors do is describe some common pitfalls and then some success tips as well for each one of these ideas. And so, one thing that you can do, a pitfall would be you conduct business as usual. You don't. If you think about it, if you just keep doing what you've always done, you're really not going to affect the change that you want to see in your life. And so, you need to do something different, and that's where they're all giving you kind of a prescription for how you would do that. You don't focus on one thing at a time in your strategic blocks. Libby, have you done this? One thing that I did, I don't do it every day. In fact, my wife teases me about it. But for a while, I was taking my phone and I was setting up my time blocks, and I would literally have a little alarm go off when I was supposed to switch. And a few times I would do it so rigidly that literally when the alarm went off, I would like drop what I was doing and start the next thing. Um, but it was a way of trying to force myself to only focus on the one thing that I had scheduled during that time period. I'm not that diligent with it now. Maybe I'm getting getting lazy or getting away from it. Do you have anything like that to help you
I have
stay
done
focused?
exactly that,
Mm,
where I would set the time. Now, do I do that every day? No, it depends on what kind of day I have. But absolutely, I would set, like in the morning, I would set 30 minutes for social media back when I did that. And that was it. Like whatever I could get done in that 30 minutes and move on to the next one and set the timer for 50 minutes. You'll notice I say 50 minutes because if I have an hour time block, I have 50 minutes is what I set the timer for. And we have videos on this that I'll link up, but set the timer for 50 minutes. And then I have 10 minutes to, do some personal things or finish up whatever I'm working on. So I don't go right like hour into hour into hour where there's no leeway and there's no break. But it's very, very helpful to be strict like that and to know what you're doing in that strategic block because you can concentrate on anything when you think about it for 50 minutes or whatever your focus time is. Like you can just say, all right, you know what? I can't look at my phone or my notifications are off. But in 50 minutes, I can go ahead and check that. Like, and I just need to do what I'm doing right now. I find it extremely helpful.
Didn't you have a system where for 50 minutes you would do something and then you gave yourself the last 10 minutes as
Mhm.
like a little mini breakout block or no?
I guess you could consider it a breakout block. Yeah. I just because sometimes I would finish up what I was working on. Sometimes I'd go grab a cup of coffee, whatever.
Yeah,
Or sometimes I'd, talk to my kids. It was just I knew I had that
right.
10 minutes. I think that is really key because it's hard to focus. It would be hard to focus. Let's say I'm going to do this for the next 5 hours
Mhm.
and your kids are texting you or somebody needs something, like they can wait a little bit, but maybe
Yeah.
not that long. And maybe you can't wait that long either. So I
Mhm.
think the smaller blocks are kind of critical for that.
Well, I'm gonna grab my remarkable just here to give a real life, example of this.
Mm.
So, work from a written weekly plan. Um, so if I get my password right, isn't that one of your things that you always say you can't do more than one thing at once?
You cannot multitasking is not a real thing.
That's that's
Multitasking is
that's the
not
quote I
a
was
real
looking for.
thing.
Thanks. So literally, I have here, and you're not gonna be able to see this, and that's okay. I don't want you to see all my silly stuff, but basically, I have this one page where I have the times, and then I have the blocks, time blocks, and I do every 30 minutes just so I can be consistent. And sometimes, of course, I'm doing multiple things, but this is kind of where it says you got to have a written plan. I create this every evening. While I'm sort of laying in bed, getting ready to retire for the night, I'm creating that written plan so that the next day I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. And the thing that everyone struggles with, and it's one of his pitfalls he mentions here, is that, you know, you have to sort of like, once you have your plan, you have to avoid letting all these other things in. I was a little guilty of that this morning. Not that they weren't things I needed to do, because I did have to pay some bills and take my cat back to the vet. Oh, this cat cost me lots of money, Libby. But so there's things you have to do. But still, if you work from a written plan, you're just going to be much more productive. And so that's I think you do yours in Google Sheets or Google
Google
Time
Calendar.
Calendar,
I
right?
use Google Calendar. Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So there's lots of different ways to do that. But honestly, to me, going back to my blue cards, this was like the funnest part of doing the 12-week year was like, can I create a system that I would actually follow. And it's been kind of fun. It's been one of the for me in 2025. It's been one of the most impactful changes in my life. Has been using time blocking and really creating the plan for what I'm going to do. Because honestly, when you work for yourself, which resellers, right, we're sort of our own bosses
Mm-hmm.
typically, you can show up at work and you just sort of look around and you're like, oh, let me work on that today. And you could
Mm-hmm.
just spend a whole day doing some, whether it's photography, listing, sorting, whatever. But, you're just kind of like letting things in to control your time.
Yeah.
And I think by having a written plan, you can try to protect your plan and get more done.
Yep. Absolutely. Well said.
All right. We love the Keystone action. Mm, mm, mm.
You were totally into the Keystone actions way before I was. So this is going to be good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Keystone action is one of the things we mentioned at the beginning of this talk. Is that what is one thing you can do on a daily or weekly basis that will move the needle? Okay. Um, and this action, think of this action as kind of like a domino. When I read this, I was like, oh, that's a good analogy. Like if you do this, you tip it over. This is a chain reaction that cascades throughout your day. And the thing about it is, the keystone action should not be something that's hard. That's all that hard. It's not like, I'm going to go, I don't know, I'm going to photograph 500 items. I don't know. I'm just making up an example.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that if you do it, it's going to cause a reaction. And, what that keystone action is, I think it's sort of different for every goal that you have. I've already said this one, that if in the morning, if I sort of put on my workout clothes when I'm getting dressed after getting in the shower, um, if I put on my tennis shoes and my shorts, that's my keystone action because I know that I'm not going to come to work, dressed in athletic gear. So if I do that, I know I'm going to drive to the YMCA in my case when it's time. So, Libby, talk to me about your keystone actions that you've uncovered.
So I would say I have two keystone actions. One is my reset to zero at night, where I reset my workspace to zero and get my time block set for the next day. And that makes it easy for me in the morning. And the other one has nothing to do with business, but it sets my day up for success. And it's going to the gym in the morning. I get up, right? Like I have to be there at a certain time. I have the energy then to go about the rest of my day and do all my listings and do all the things. And when I don't do that, oh boy, are the results very different. Like without that keystone action, it is so hard. And I didn't even know that was a keystone action, but it totally is. It's like a domino, right? Everything else just goes when I do that. Yeah.
We haven't mentioned many examples today of like personal things, relationships wise, but you certainly could build in those things into your 12-week year. It's part of your vision could be to have better relationship with your children or with your significant other. And so I was sort of thinking about this as you were speaking that one thing that has sort of grown to become a keystone for me is in the evening, in order to get my move ring closed, I really have to go for a walk around the neighborhood. And so normally I do this with my wife, and that's a time where away from our son, we can kind of just talk and, sort of hash out what happened at work and, what are the different stresses and struggles and whatever. And I have kind of thought about, I don't have a relationship goal written into my 12-week year, but I can see that if I did, the keystone action would be go on a walk in the neighborhood with my spouse because I can see how
Yeah.
that one action makes every other interaction we have during the day or even the next day better because we have kind of hashed out a lot of the things that are on our mind, versus kind of like, getting to nighttime. It's like 10 o'clock at night, everybody's sleepy. You're not going to have a long conversation when it's time just to turn the light off and go to bed. So, yeah, Keystone Actions, they're,
Oh,
they're super
that's
cool.
a good one. I mean, I know for some people it's prayer. They pray when they get up in the morning or they pray before they go to bed at night. Like reading the Bible. Some people have that as their keystone action that really sets them up. But just to throw some more examples in there.
Yeah, and I think this is key. We talked about this in the slide edge. What are actions that trigger momentum in other areas?
Mm,
So if you think about, if you do this one thing, it's going to have this ripple effect and help you get a lot more done. And for some people, it might be, waking up and like before your kids get up, you do X, Y, Z. I don't know what that is. You can kind of, for your own life, figure that out. But something that's not that hard, but if you do it, the chances of having a successful day are going to be much, much greater. And so, Libby, that might be something that when you all do the coaching for the next 12-week year, which we're really kind of,
mm.
introducing to people for 2026, that might be something you all get people to actually write down is what would their keystone action be? Because I think that would, if someone can kind of figure that out, that's going to go a long way towards helping them have a successful 12-week year.
I think so. I think if I ever learn how to meditate or start meditating, that will definitely be a keystone action for me.
Yeah, that's that. Good luck on that. Let me know how
I
that
mean, I
goes.
hear a lot of people say that is they're not saying it's their keystone
Yeah,
action, but the way they describe it and starting their day it sounds like a great keystone action.
yeah, definitely. I've heard that as well, and I'm not a good meditator, so I can't say that's that's me. So, well, we're going to kind of sum this up with a couple more slides, and the authors of the book have a few other chapters that kind of wrap up, getting this all done. But I wanted to kind of wrap it up by talking about this idea of personal leadership, which is something they talk about really kind of throughout the book. But we have some points here that I think we can hit on pretty good. And so I just wrote here: demonstrating personal leadership means taking full responsibility for your actions, consistently following through on your commitments, and choosing the behaviors that align with your goals, regardless of how you feel in the moment. So that sounds a
Mm.
lot like greatness in the moment.
Greatness in the moment. Yes.
Let me go to the
And
next one, then we will have
yeah,
fun talking about these 6 points. And
yeah.
I've got some pointers here that I'll throw out, but definitely feel free to jump in at all. So what this to me, this kind of sums up this whole thing of the 12-week year, where you've created the vision and you've created the goals and the tactics, and then you have again um, all of these things that we've talked about over the last 3 sessions. I think this kind of sums it up. They talk a lot about ownership in the book, and so taking ownership of your actions and your outcomes. No one else is responsible for your progress. We've talked about responsibility. Don't let external, excuses and other things drive your performance. You are the person who drives your performance and the outcomes.
And I think one of my favorite topics is blame. If you find
Mhm.
yourself blaming, you guys, if anybody listens to my reseller reflections, I do a daily vlog. Blame is one of my favorite topics, and what a trap that is. And I think when you do this personal leadership, like you really can't blame, right? You really have to turn that around and look at yourself and say, all right, well, what can I do about it? Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
I had to sneak that in there because it's one of my favorites.
No, it's perfect. I mean, that's the thing. Once you sort of like begin to understand the concepts you're talking about, you're going to see it in a lot of other things, and so that's a great example. The next one, doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. That sounds a lot like greatness in the moment. I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, choosing to do the right action now. So when you have this weekly plan, the daily execution, the key actions, all those things, acting on that, acting on commitments, not feelings. That's what I think that's driving towards.
And if you have your vision, this is a great time to go back and revisit your vision, right? Have it there. Look up at it. I don't feel like doing it, but darn it, I'm living a healthy lifestyle. I'm doing it now. All right.
Yeah. Keeping promises to yourself. One thing the authors mention is that we often keep promises to others,
Mhm.
but break promises to ourselves. And I don't know if Libby, I don't know if you have this sort of guilt on you, but I myself and my wife and I talk about this is that when we make sort of a commitment to someone else, we will like, you know, go through a burning, house
Mhm.
to not let someone else down once we have made a commitment. But then, the way I would look through this 12-week year lens is I don't have that same burning desire to always, I will let myself change my mind, go in a different direction, whatever. But that's what it's going to take to really make change is you have to keep promises to
I
yourself.
think this was really like an aha moment for a lot of people that have done the 12-week year and read the book was,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm so good at this for other people. I'm so reliable. I will do anything. But when it comes to myself, I have no confidence that I will keep that promise. And it's an eye opener for sure. And this kind of guides you through and lets you see that you are as important and what you commit to yourself is as if not more important than what you commit to other people. Yeah.
And I think that if you're doing this 12-week year and you kind of share this with your family, they actually will kind of come around to the idea of supporting you. So this has kind of happened with me where sometimes there'll be, we have something else going on in the family, and I might mention something about, well, I need to go for a walk, or I need to go do this or do that in order to cross off my goal. And now that we've been doing this for all of 2025, my family kind of understands, and they go along with it and give me a little support,
Oh,
which
that's
maybe in the
nice.
beginning they weren't.
Yeah.
So this fourth one, choosing long-term game over short-term comfort. We talked about this before. Is that oftentimes we need to choose. We choose comfort over discipline. We choose busy work over important work. We choose immediate relief over future rewards. And of course, these are all the pitfalls, right? So we need to focus on what is important over what is urgent. And that's something we've talked about in several of the books that we've read. We need to focus on action instead of procrastination, and progress over perfection. So these are all key things.
Yes. Yes. I've nothing to add to that. That's exactly
Good.
what needed to be said.
All right, so almost done. Taking control of your mindset. We have a few people in the group who over the course of the year, I think this has been the biggest thing for them is interrupting the negative patterns that they sometimes have in their mindset. And some of this has been people who maybe have, tried all sorts of things during their life to change habits, to quit this, to start this, whatever. And, we're sort of haunted by these negative patterns of thoughts. And so this is one of the struggles here is that you have to take control of your mindset and steer, and it all goes back to your vision. That's why we spent like, I don't know, 15 minutes talking about vision
Mhm.
the other time, is that once you create that strong emotional connection to your vision, then you can convince yourself that it's worth the sacrifice to make the change because you know that your goals matter, and that's the key.
Yeah, and I mean, it's mind-blowing to me, like, we've had several people say, "Well, I've never, like, finished anything. I don't finish things. I've never had success. I don't It's not me." And to see that transformation of somebody taking control of their mindset and being like, "All right, well, yeah, I can do this for 12 weeks. I can do this. I can finish something and I can come out strong." And just that transformation is absolutely, I mean, could you imagine anything better you could do for yourself, honestly? Like, that's all there is,
And your
folks.
friends are there to celebrate you, you
Yeah,
know? I
yeah,
mean, how rewarding is that? And that's such a positive feedback loop. So, the group that we have is very uplifting and supportive. And so, every week is not, everybody's not making, getting awesome scores every week. And that's really the sixth one here, surrounding yourself with accountability is that WHAM group, surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you on this journey, having transparency with them, that you're going to be honest about what's going on, and and then scoring yourself. So that's going to be important to hold yourself accountable.
yep. And the group is there to support, not to criticize, it is for support. You are accountable for yourself. Nobody is going to say, "Can't believe you got a 0 this week," or "I can't believe you only got," that's not what we're there for at all.
What we've seen, you can stay on the slide. What we
Yeah.
have seen, unfortunately, is that what happens is people just stop coming to the WAM groups because for whatever reason they're embarrassed, they haven't made progress, whatever, they don't show up. But the ones who do and admit that they bombed out last week, those are the people that seem to bounce back,
Mhm.
versus the ones that we just never see them again. It's like, oh gosh, I hope they're still doing okay. I haven't seen them in a few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, So let me wrap this up by talking about the 13th week, which I didn't make a slide for because it's really a simple concept. So obviously, if you look at a calendar and you were to look at 3 months and think about, how many 52 weeks in a year, well, that actually divides out to there's 13 weeks in a typical quarter. And so the clever little thing the authors have done, they're a little smart about this. They said, okay, let's make it the 12-week year, which is a nice round number. But then there's this little extra week at the end. And so what they would say at the end is that is your week to celebrate your wins. It's also a week to reflect back on what you've done and where you're headed. For us, I love what you guys have done. We sort of celebrate it. Literally, you guys hold a party for our
A New Year's Eve part. We have a
New
New
Year's.
Year's party. Yes, we
We
do.
do. It's a little corny, but it fits right in. Yes, a New Year's Eve party. Um, But that's sort of that. If you go all the way back to the very beginning of this idea of an annualized plan that has like December 31st is like the end goal, and you're working towards that. You're working towards that. Just in that one example, can't you see that it's a much better idea to have a 12-week year where you're going to celebrate and have a little party, and that on the 13th week, and then you can start it all over again and do it again and do it again and do it for a fourth time, all in the span of 1 year. 4 different 12-week years where you're meeting your goals, you're meeting with the group weekly, you're making all this progress, you're getting little wins and feedback. Hopefully, you're losing some weight, having better relations with your family, selling more stuff if you're a reseller. I don't know. Who wouldn't want to sign up for that?
I know. I know. Yeah. So anyway, the sign up is in the show notes here in the description. If you would like to apply to join us in year one of 2026, there's just a couple like hoops you have to, I guess hoops isn't the right word. Like you have to have read the book. You need to meet with us for 15 minutes and solidify your plan. Um, you need to be a member of the Patreon. Yeah. And you need to just, oh, the other one is that you just say that it is a private group and anything we share will not be shared. You are not welcome to share anything we discuss in the 12-week year with anyone outside of the group. Everything is private and stays within our group. And that's what you need to do. You apply, we send you this stuff, and you can join us. And
Let
it'll
me just
start in the
also
beginning of
mention,
January. This one will start in the beginning of
yeah,
January. If you're watching this after the fact, we do start one at the beginning of every quarter, and we will restart the application process. Once the year starts, that we don't allow anybody new to join. You'll have to wait until the beginning of the next. Yeah.
I just wanted to plug book club, which is another thing that I have
Hmm.
really enjoyed inside the Consignment Chats community. Libby hosts a business boosting book club, typically on Monday nights
Hmm.
during the quarters, and so that is where we will take some sort of a book. We've done lots of them: The Slight Edge, Profit First, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. We've done all kinds of books, and typical book study, right? Read these chapters, come back, we're going to talk about it. It's all done on Zoom, and I've really enjoyed that, just kind of nerding out about books. And so I'm glad you have that passion as well, Libby.
Yeah, it's been great. We wouldn't have done this 12-week year without it. So thank you.
Right.
And thank you for volunteering to share this with everyone. It's so
Thanks.
appreciated by our community. Yeah. All right. Until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.